Tonight on CFTK-TV News, the Terrace Sportsplex held a grand opening for a child care space. Taylor Backrack had an important question at a recent question period, and a person seeking shelter in Burnaby met a tragic fate.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Maslin, and here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond for today. To start, a recent event held in Terrace has ushered in a new place where kids can be supervised while their parents can complete any items that they need total focus on. Yesterday saw the City of Terrace's Sportsplex hold the grand opening of the brand new licensed childcare space, where both Terrace's Mayor Sean Buitosh and BC's Minister of Finance Katrin Conroy give speeches and even have a brief ribbon-cutting ceremony, as well as cake and refreshments for the kids in attendance. Mayor Buitosh also spoke a bit on how people have perceived this addition to the Sportsplex.
We were lucky enough to have a space that fit what we needed, and it's been well received so far, so we're super happy about this. Childcare, as we all know, after school care especially, is very limited in our community, so it's nice that we have got this extra space now available for folks.
But the most convenient part of the space seems to be the fact that a fund was put in place to help cover costs, as $390,000 was given to Terrace via the Childcare BC New Spaces Fund, which is said to be supported by both the provincial and federal governments and is said to keep the daycare cost neutral for the city. And Minister Conroy went on to speak on how the Childcare BC Fund plans to create more of these spaces throughout the entirety of the province.
It's a 10-year program that will not only create childcare spaces right across the province, but also hire and train early childhood educators, because you can't have a beautiful space like this without having the people that are going to do the caretaking for the children. And those are professionals, people that are educated and have the right skills to do the job. And so we have to make sure that we have enough early childhood educators. So we've been training them right across the province.
In total, it's been reported that BC and Canada combined to invest over $260 million last year in these kinds of spaces, but it's not currently clear what the number will be for 2024. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin. Skeena Bulkley Valley MP Taylor Backrack, during a recent question period, brought up a subject that has been quite the frequent topic of discussion throughout all of Canada. Backrack's question was, what is the government going to be doing planning-wise for the next wildfire season, since the fires in 2023 were the most devastating in the country's entire history and were especially bad in BC. A total of over 6,500 fires burned around 19 million hectares of land, and BC still has close to 100 fires smoldering from those turbulent summer months. Backrack is one of the belief that the fire season in 2024 could end up being even worse, and is currently calling on the government to begin implementing a national plan to respond to the drought and wildfires expected for this upcoming summer. A recent news release has publicized a brand new relationship agreement between a BC First Nation and a local port authority. The agreement is between the Prince Rupert Port Authority and the Kitsum-Kalem First Nation, and its purpose is to set up how the two parties will work together in the future. Well, this agreement is said to have been formally ratified in 2023 at a community-hosted signing ceremony on Kitsum-Kalem territory. It has now been publicly acknowledged by the PRPA. The foundations of the agreement have said to be principles like mutual understanding, respect, commitment, openness, building the economy, trusting, and stewarding the environment. For anyone that wishes to see and learn a bit more about the agreement, more information is available on the Prince Rupert Port Authority's website. A Central Coast First Nation is suing the federal government for infringing on its Aboriginal rights by banning one of its commercial fisheries in 2022. The Heiltsuk Nation filed the civil lawsuit in BC Supreme Court, challenging the Fisheries Department's decision to close the commercial harvest of the herring spot on kelp in the nation's territory. The lawsuit says the closure disrupted both an economic lifeline as well as a cultural cornerstone for the nation. A statement from the nation says the department had previously worked with it to manage the fishery, and the department's unilateral decision came as a surprise. Coming up next, a former prime minister has just passed on. Welcome back. Former Conservative Prime Minister Brian Mulroney has recently passed away. He served as Canada's 18th Prime Minister from 1984 to 1993 and brought about some major changes to our country, from free trade with the U.S. to the GST. Here's Annie Bergeron-Oliver with Mulroney's legacy.
Si nous votons non, on déchire ces gains historiques.
His passion was politics and the pursuit of power. As a student, he became an advisor to Conservative Prime Minister John Diefenbaker. He worked behind the scenes in Conservative politics for years, finally running for national leadership of the Conservative Party in 1976, losing painfully to an unknown Joe Clark. Smarting from his defeat, Mulroney joined corporate Canada as a senior executive, but continued an underground campaign to oust Clark. His efforts culminated in 1983 when he won the leadership of the Conservative Party.
Together, we're going to build a brand new party and a brand new country.
He went on to form the largest majority in Canadian history, having pilloried Prime Minister John Turner during the 1984 election debate.
I had no option.
Well,
Truman, your next question,
you
please.
had an option, sir. You could have said, I am not going to do it. This is wrong for Canada.
Mulroney embarked on a stormy activism prime ministership that in 9 years exhausted and polarized the country. He took Canada on a forced march through two major efforts to bring Quebec into the constitutional fold. Both tries, Meech Lake and the Charlottetown Accord, failed miserably. On the international stage, however, Mulroney gave Canada a respect and a presence it has not always had. Mulroney played a key role in convincing President George H.W. Bush Sr. to create an international coalition to oust Saddam Hussein's forces from Kuwait, including a combat role for Canadian forces.
Free trade sucks! Free trade sucks!
The worst fears of Mulroney's enemies and the greatest plaudits from his friends culminated in his controversial decision to forge a free trade agreement between Canada and the United States. The campaign that followed divided the country into opposing camps, but Mulroney carried the day, winning a second historic majority in 1988. Not content with that achievement, Mulroney pushed the country hard on a number of fronts, negotiating a historic acid rain treaty with the U.S., reforming the tax system and introducing the reviled goods and services tax. The country drifted into recession, its spirits exhausted by endless political warfare. Mulroney's popularity dropped to an all-time low. Sensing his time was up, Mulroney resigned.
The time has come for me to step aside.
And Mulroney handed over power to Kim Campbell. After leaving office, Mulroney was accused by the governing Liberal Party of accepting $5 million in kickbacks on the sale of Airbus jets to Air Canada from arms dealer Karl-Heinz Schreiber. In 1997, the RCMP cleared him of any involvement. Mulroney successfully sued the Liberal government for $2 million. A few years later, as Schreiber faced extradition to Germany for tax evasion, he revealed a bombshell that Mulroney accepted a $300,000 secret cash payment shortly after he left office. Prime Minister Stephen Harper was forced to call a public inquiry, a humiliation for Mulroney and his family.
I think I understand.
Commissioner Nicholas was 10 years old. He would Merci.
In his final summation, Justice Jeffrey Oliphant found the financial and business dealings between the two were unethical. Many believe Mulroney had it within his grasp to become one of Canada's outstanding prime ministers. His achievements in office were significant, but his reputation can never remove the stain of ethical lapses and business dealings never fully explained. Annie Bergeron-Oliver, CTV News, Ottawa.
Avalanche Canada has issued an immediate warning to backcountry users of very dangerous conditions in wide sections of the province stretching into Alberta through the weekend. The agency says mountains in southwestern, northwestern, and eastern BC all have weak layers of snow established earlier in the month. This week's heavy snowfall has created conditions that may lead to human-triggered avalanches, and Avalanche Canada says the warning will remain active until March 4th. Environment Canada says this week's snowfall has already dumped 57 centimeters in Whistler, up to 60 centimeters on the Sea to Sky Highway, and 32 centimeters at the Coquihalla summit. And now to a tragic development for one person seeking shelter from the snow and rain recently. A fire in Burnaby turned deadly. As CTV's Yasmin Ganda reports, flames ripped through an abandoned condo building where people were living inside.
Burnaby Fire received a call just after 9 p.m. last night after a fire broke out at this 3-story condo building. Firefighters then rescued a woman from a 3rd-story balcony. The other victim, a man, died in the ambulance. It happened here in the 4300 block of Maywood Street near Metrotown. Ladders were used to rescue the woman who was suffering from minor smoke inhalation. Burnaby Fire says they pulled the man out of the burning building, but it was too late.
Our units conducted a very aggressive search under heavy fire conditions and located the second occupant. Because of the state of the interior of the structure, it was very hazardous to our firefighters, and they did an extreme job of locating the other occupant. The second person was located and removed from the structure. Our crews and BC Ambulance performed life-saving efforts on the person, and they succumbed to their injuries while en route to the hospital.
His cause of death is still unknown, but crews say he likely died as a result of the heavy smoke. 2 suites on the 3rd floor were damaged. More than 30 firefighters responded to the scene. The investigation is ongoing, but Burnaby Fire says there were squatters in the apartments, likely trying to keep warm amid frigid temperatures and snow. Yasmin Gandam, CTV News, Burnaby.
Turning to tonight's weather, the North Coast is supposed to deal with a chance of rain or wet flurries at a low of -4 degrees. The Terrace-Kitimat area is likely to have a chance of flurries too, but with their low down at -8 degrees. And the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District is set to deal with periods of snow at a -18 degree low. On the North Coast, their next week or so will be sun and some cloud for a while, but eventually turn into possible flurries and rain, while the high goes from -1 to 5 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, the week for them will be a bit more cloud mixed with sun before going to flurries and rain too, while the high shifts from -5 to 3 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the upcoming week begins with all clouds, then goes to sun, and lastly becomes a mix of both, with their high bouncing from -10 to 1 degree. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is slippery sections, utility work, bridge maintenance, roadside brushing, a vehicle recovery, and a new traffic signal being installed, plus the Usk Ferry is out of service and the cable car is in effect. Highway 35 has some slippery sections too. Highway 118 has blowing snow. Highway 37 has slippery sections as well, while also having avalanche control work. 37A has slippery sections too, some more slippery sections on the Nishka Highway, and the Telegraph Creek Road has slippery sections of its own. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cabs. Still to come, a child pulled from his family home for mysterious reasons has died. Welcome back. The tragic death of a 6-year-old boy in foster care on Vancouver Island is under review. His mom has stated that he was pulled from their family home without an explanation on February 22nd. Less than a week later, she said that he was found unresponsive and later died in a hospital. A warning, some of the details in this story may be distressing to some viewers. CTV's Yvonne Raymond reports.
Grief is washing over the family and friends of Oliver Ratchford, who died in ministry care at the age of 6.
He is such a sweet, funny, smart, very curious little boy, and everyone who knew him fell in love with him. So I'm just heartbroken.
His Victoria-based mom says 4 days after the boy and his sister were placed in foster care without an explanation, Oliver was found unresponsive, face down in a pond, and died in hospital. In a statement, Jade says, "They took my baby. They killed him. MCFD killed my son." She asks, how is this child protection? How is this right? How is this the government's idea of what safety is?
My thoughts are with the family and community of this little boy. I'm a mom of a 7 and a 9-year-old. I cannot imagine what this family is going through.
For privacy reasons, the Minister of Children and Family Development can't comment on any case related to a child in care. She says foster parents undergo rigorous assessments, including home safety visits.
It is my expectation and my direction to the ministry that we are doing everything if a child dies in care so that we understand what happened and how it happened, and so that we can take actions to ensure that children are safe and protected, whether at home or in our care.
BC's watchdog for children and youth will also conduct a review in a system she says is facing tremendous pressure.
We're seeing workforce shortages unlike anything I have seen in my 46 years of practice. We're seeing situations in which there's simply not the capacity to provide the services and resources that are necessary. So the complexity of what we're dealing with right now, our system was never designed to meet those kinds of needs.
Oliver's allies support the spotlight on accountability as they turn to helping his family.
I'm trying to get some community support and donations for the Ratchert family.
The GoFundMe has been created to pay for funeral costs, meals, and other expenses in the loss of a boy they won't forget. Yvonne Raymond, CTV News, Victoria.
A first-of-its-kind ban is now in effect, changing how online gambling is promoted in Ontario. Famous faces from the world of sports and other celebrities will no longer appear in ads. Gambling researchers here in BC have praised the new legislation, saying BC's Lottery Corporation is marketing to younger audiences. CTV's Rahim Ladani has the details.
Instead of seeing Toronto Maple Leafs Austin Matthews solely on the ice, or actor Jamie Foxx just in movies, these celebrities have been starring in gambling ads dominating Canadian airwaves.
Generally, I hear it a lot, like when I'm listening to podcasts, it's coming up a lot more.
The advertisements are aggressive. Like, you can't watch a game without seeing the boards.
Trying to practice here, Wayne. However, beginning Wednesday, current or retired athletes, celebrities, and even social media influencers are banned from promoting internet gaming in Ontario, unless it's to advocate for responsible gambling.
These sports stars are people that the younger generation are going to look up to. What they stand for now, more likely that generation will stand for in the future to come.
I think they should have as equal rights as us. They're everyday people, and just because they have professions and stuff.
Each province has been left to regulate the online gambling industry since Canada legalized single-game sport betting in 2021. After receiving plenty of backlash, last summer the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario agreed on the celebrity ban in an effort to safeguard children and youth who may be susceptible to such advertising content.
It is an addiction, of course, and quite honestly can really impact somebody's mental health and their overall well-being in terms of clearly their finances, but also their relationships. And we know from research that it can also lead to suicidal ideation.
Between October and December of 2023, iGaming Ontario reports that there were 1.2 million active player accounts. The average person was spending $186 per month, generating more than $17 billion in total wagers.
I actually am a partaker myself in sports betting, but I just had to put myself to like a $5 limit just so I don't break the bank there.
These regulations do not restrict iGaming operators from sponsoring segments in broadcast programming. Advocates say until all ads are banned, minors and high-risk individuals will remain vulnerable. Rahim Ladani, CTV News, Toronto.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is up 3/100ths of a cent. The price of gold is up $41. Oil is up $1.71. Natural gas is down 3 cents. Aluminum is up $37.50. In Toronto, the TSX is up 188.74 points. The Venture Index is up 11.49. In New York, the Dow Jones is up 90.99, and the Nasdaq is up 183.02. Still ahead, governments are turning watchful eyes towards AI. Welcome back. Artificial intelligence is driving a lot of advances in the world right now, but also creating plenty of security concerns. That includes the growing use of deepfakes. As ABC's Rebecca Jarvis reports, governments are now trying to get ahead of the technology.
My name is Caroline Mullet, and I'm a 9th grade at Issaquah High School.
Despite being the daughter of Washington State Senator Mark Mullet, this was Caroline's first time in front of her state legislature.
At our homecoming dance last year, a member of our class took pictures of my female friends and then posted them online using AI. He used AI to show my friends' faces, but then filtered their bodies to make them appear nude.
Caroline's friends had become victims of deepfakes, manipulated photos, videos, or audio created using artificial intelligence that appear real. Over the last year, as AI has become more accessible, deepfakes have become more prevalent, with targets ranging from political figures to celebrities like Taylor Swift to high schoolers. This week, reports of students creating and sharing nude AI-generated pictures of other students at a Beverly Hills middle school has led to a police investigation.
So it used to be you needed hundreds and thousands of images. Now you need a single image of somebody, and that's been about in the last year. There is zero barrier to entry now. You don't need skill, you don't need money, you don't need time, and you don't need effort.
And under the current Washington state law, if someone's image is used to make pornographic content without their consent, there's no legal recourse. At least 10 states have criminal laws against this type of media manipulation. And recently, the federal government introduced a bill that, if passed, would become the first national law to protect victims of deepfakes.
My perspective in the state Senate in Washington is you do it on the state level, and when enough states do it, a lot of times that leads to something happening at the federal level.
Every innovation has found a way to be weaponized, but the difference today is the speed and the scale with which that weaponization can happen. First of all, the generative AI and the AI space is moving at a speed that we have not seen before. But also the harm is not contained. It is on the internet for millions and millions to see. So the scale and the speed of what we are talking about is very different than what we've seen historically.
A report from BC's Auditor General says the Ministry of Environment is not managing hazardous spills in the province as well as it could. Michael Pickup says the government didn't consistently notify First Nations communities of and millions of dollars owed to the province for cleanup costs that haven't been recovered from those responsible. Pickup says the ministry responds appropriately to high-risk incidents, but effective management is more than that as there are thousands of spills reported every year. He also points to the ministry's use of a decade-old response plan and data that's not easily accessible. Abbotsford police are asking people to check their donations before dropping them off after an unusual discovery in a local thrift store set off a police and bomb squad response. Constable Art Steele says workers at the store called for help on Monday when they found a Second World War-era grenade in the donation bin. Steele says police shut down the thrift store and surrounding businesses to mitigate any possible risk. Officers with the explosives disposal units then moved in and determined the grenade had been decommissioned. That's all of our news for now. From all of us here at CFTK-TV News, I'm Kale Maslin, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.